dry up, and I think as you get into the afternoon, it should be mostly fine. Small chance of a shower popping up around the Pennines, but many places will have a dry afternoon with a top temperature of 20 Celsius.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones. 0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
I hear you, all right. Telephone number if you want to join us today. I'm Allan Beswick, if you didn't know. I'm Allan Beswick, if you did know. Anyway, 0161... What is it? Oh, I can't remember now. 0161 228 2255. That's it. Oh, yeah. I'm going to have to start waking up earlier. Yeah, the email address is radiomanchester@bbc.co.uk, and the text number 07786206951. The subject matter, well, out you want. Apparently they're going to spend 10 million quid rebranding the NHS. They're going to change its name from NHS to let me think. I've seen it somewhere. Oh yeah, to NHS. Don't look at me, I don't make these decisions. That's what they've said they're going to do. They're going to change its name from NHS to NHS, and they're going to spend 10 million quid doing it. Brilliant. So, that's quite a lot of hip replacements, is that? Ah, well, we're going to talk to Eddie in Bury in a minute, and to you if you call 0161 228 2255.
Becky Warwick, the best guest, and a no dull people guarantee.
You're not afraid to get your kit off, are you? I haven't done any for 2 years now.
Yes, but once you've been a glamour model, you'll forever be remembered as a glamour model, won't
Well, I
you?
guess, Marilyn Monroe did a nude calendar and she did all right.
Did you model yourself on Marilyn Monroe?
I would love to. Wouldn't it be amazing?
Will you ever retire?
Well, you look at Helen Mirren in that bikini recently and she's still working, just won an Oscar, so...
Fantastic. Abby Titmus comparing herself to Marilyn Monroe and Helen Mirren, all in the space of 10 minutes.
Becky Warwick, this afternoon from 2
at BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. Eddie in Bury. Hiya, Eddie.
Congratulations, Alan.
Oh, dear.
My name's Fiona. I've just entered you into a competition. One of your family members has won our prize draw. You've won a holiday to the Bahamas. All-inclusive flights, hotel, accommodation. All you have to do is press 1 on your phone. I've had 2 of those this week, Alan.
All right, I've not won.
Well...
Oh, for God's sake, I was all up then. I was just hoping it wasn't Antigua,
Give
but
over,
I thought I'd won then.
Give over, young man.
You've had 2 of them, have you?
Yeah,
Excellent.
and I'm on calling preference service as well.
I don't even know what that means. Oh, like the mail preference service?
Yes.
Ah, but they're from out the country, aren't they?
Yes, and
Yeah.
they withhold the numbers.
Yeah. Well, you
And
can't blame
What
them.
I'm trying to do is warn people. This was in the papers about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And if you press 1, you accept their terms and conditions, and you could end up with a bill for 30 quid on your phone.
Well, you see, you don't accept their terms and conditions.
By
And-
pressing 1, you do, Alan.
No,
but
you
go
don't.
on, I'll let you...
No, you don't. How can that be a contract?
Oh, it is.
Well, you tell me the law of contract.
Well, the law of contract, you'll argue with me.
Yeah.
Sadly, they get round it. Why are they withheld? Why are they getting through the calling preference service?
Well, I can answer both of those. They're withheld because they're a bunch of crooks, and
Yep.
one of the things you do when you're a crook is you don't own up first.
Exactly.
You don't say, hello, I've come to steal from you, because that really doesn't work. And why are they getting through the mail preference service, or the telephone preference service? Because they're ringing from abroad, and it can't be used from abroad, as it were. It doesn't work from abroad.
Okay.
Because the deal, the contract, if you like, between the preference services, and there are a variety of them,
Yep.
the contract is, it's not the law, it's not international law, it's just an agreement
That's correct,
in
yeah.
this country. Well, of course, we can't enforce it abroad, so that's the answer to that one.
It sort of goes back to one of the guys you were speaking to last week about the EU, where he thought that they controlled everything we do. No.
Yeah, well, we told
But
him he
you
was
felt far off
crackers
the
as well.
bloody pipe with this one. Oh, pardon my language.
It's all right. But yes,
What do I do about them, though? And
You
other
can't do
people, really, I'm trying to bring it to their attention. Do not press 1 when you're invited
the
to.
thing to do is to never ever believe that you'll get something for nothing.
That's right.
That's it. That's the solution.
They start off saying, we've won, we've entered.
Yeah.
Either me or a family member
You just
has
put the
won.
phone down then.
Never have. Oh, it goes on call screen, so it's just a message I receive.
Well, I don't even know what call screen is.
Call screening is when you hear who's coming in, and then you either decide to pick
Oh,
it
right,
up
yes.
or not.
Well, right, I understand
Yes.
that.
You must do that every day.
No, I don't. I don't.
You must
'cause-
do with all your fans.
No, they don't do it here. 'Cause
Or
we-
your stalkers, for that
I
matter.
don't have any of them. We want them to ring, so that really wouldn't be a good idea, would
No,
it?
not your home, though.
Well, nobody has my number at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be found.
I suppose it could, yeah.
So that's interesting.
And I never,
seriously,
I never
I mean,
answer the phone at home.
I
so
know
it's
I'm
all
full
right.
of... I find the world very depressing, like the people up on the, on K2. Like, what is it, 12 bodies now, they think?
I
I'm not
think it
sure,
is, yeah,
9 or 12. And my brain thinks, what are they doing there in the first place? There's no convenience store at the top.
Well, it's their hobby.
I know.
And people take chances in
They
their
do,
lives.
and that's called life, isn't it? Getting
Yeah,
out
that's
and
what they do.
experiencing. And
Yeah.
I'm really sorry that those people are gone. It hurts.
I don't know how it... Well, it doesn't hurt me.
It
I mean,
does.
if one of them landed on me, it would. But it doesn't hurt me. If somebody dies...
Emotionally, it hurts me because all they try to do is better themselves and experience life.
Well...
And there are people out there in the world,
Eddie,
as we know, listening to me now, they really don't give a monkey's.
Eddie, the most important thing about mountaineering... The most important thing about mountaineering...
What about you?
Are deaths. Without deaths, there's not much point to it. Without
make it sound so
deaths,
gorgeous.
No, without deaths, there's not much point. What's the point of climbing a mountain if nobody ever dies? It's not hard. There's no challenge. There's
Like
no
going
point.
to the moon or Mars.
Well, if you want to do something that challenges you and puts your life at risk, do mountaineering. But if nobody died mountaineering, if it was so safe that nobody ever died, then there wouldn't be much point doing it. So that it is important to mountaineering that every so often a great lump of people fall off the mountain. Otherwise, what's the point of doing it? Now, it's sad for their families, and it's not much fun for the ones that survive.
Yeah, the kids.
Well, all of those things. But in the end, the important thing about mountaineering is people die doing it. That's why they do it. So don't feel too sorry for them. They were doing what they like doing, and they...
But I do, Alan.
Well, you're balmy
missing?
then.
I'm really rubbish at expressing what I really think. But these people are good people.
Well,
They
we
haven't
don't-
hurt a fly.
we don't know
They just
that.
try to explore the world. And there are people out there capable of carrying knives and hurting you on the Metrolink or anything.
We don't know.
Why
that-
don't they go up K2?
Eddie, I don't know what research you've done, but we don't know that they were good people. Bad people have hobbies too, you know.
I'm glad people don't know my address. I'm sure they'd turn up and do me.
But
Anyway,
Eddie,
can we get
bad
back to-
people have hobbies too. Everyone that died on that mountain, I don't go with this truck, they're dead, therefore they must have been good. Some of them may have been really nasty bits of work, and frankly, the world might be a better place without them. I don't know, but I'm not presuming. I don't do this, who's dead, therefore who's a good guy.
Right,
Anyway,
so-
back to the phone call. The solution is in everybody's hands, and that is, if somebody says, here's some money for now, put the phone down.
And don't press 1.
Don't do anything. Just put the phone down. Hang up on them, or if it's a message, ignore it.
And back to me other thing, is there any advice you can give me on this preference service? Because apparently I've been on to my phone company, which is the obvious one. They say to block withheld numbers, we'll charge you £3.50 a month. And I said, oh, no, that's not valid. I'm on the preference service. That should work.
No, it shouldn't. If you want to ban all numbers that are not identified to you,
Yeah.
you have to pay for it.
It would seem so, yeah.
It's a service. Why should they do it for now? If they're doing it for now, in the end, I'm paying for it. Have a good day, Eddie. Irene in Shaw. Hiya, Irene.
Hiya, Alan. I was speaking to you last week on Thursday about my broadband.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Yeah.
they connect a bit of wire and all that caper.
Yeah.
I remember you.
Well, I never thought I'd ring you in the first place, and here I am talking to you for the second time. Well, I'm online now, Alan.
Hey!
Yay, yeah.
Marvellous. Bravo.
Previously, I'd rung the technical helpline to try and get me online, but they'd ended up saying it must be my phone line, so they'd have to check it out and ring me back.
Yeah.
They never did ring me back.
Oh, dear.
So I tried again on Friday afternoon for about the 9th time, and I finally got someone who knew his stuff, and he had me clicking on here and there and typing in letters on a black screen, and suddenly the broadband green light that we was talking about fluffing into life.
Oh, my word.
Right, so I'd like to thank your helpful listeners for their input.
What have you used it for? What was the first website you went to?
Yours, of course.
That'll teach you. You never did, you?
I did.
I haven't got one. Unless you mean the Radio Manchester one.
Yeah, well, you knew what I meant, yeah.
Because I haven't got a personal one.
Yeah.
I'm not daft.
Yours is in your radio station. Yeah. And, but I'd like to thank your callers, like I say, for their input, and especially for Dave, who left his telephone number at your reception. But I didn't need him in the end anyway.
No, you got it all sorted yourself.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that what they've made you do is they've made you switch it on your computer. That's what it sounds like to me, if you're typing stuff into your black screen.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, you're up and running, that's what counts. Good on you, Irene.
Yeah, thought I'd let you know.
The world is now your oyster.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Certainly is.
Have a good day.
Then.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
There you are, Irene. The broadband is so... Well, we were worried. Weren't we? We were worried. We were concerned that we'd put all that energy in and we wanted to know how we'd done. And now we know how we'd done. We'd done good. The boys done good. And the girls, obviously. Yeah. I'm looking for it now. There it was. She was on first thing Friday. What do you reckon to Michael Vaughan striking? I found it really uncomfortable. Because, well, it's rude to laugh. And I wanted to laugh. I thought, here's a grown man. He's giving up his job, which, by all accounts, he's been very good at until now. But he's giving up his job as captain of England. And he cried his eyes out. And I just think, what? What in the name of God? You wouldn't want to be near him if he got some bad news, would you? You'd have to wear wellies and a sou'wester. For crying out loud. Can we please go back to the days when we didn't wear our hearts on our sleeves? We didn't really cry in public. And we didn't think that the world owed us something. Can we just go back to those days? I know, but I gave the example just before 12 o'clock. Brian Close, when Jeff Thompson and Dennis Lilly were doing the bouncer, when they brought the bouncer in, it was a bit like that big thing they had in the 30s, Bodyline. And we had a spell of, not Bodyline, but they introduced the bouncer. And that's the reason now that cricketers, when they go out to bat, they have pads all over themselves. They have pads on their chest, pads on their forearm, pads on their thigh. Not just the traditional cricket pads. They wear a safety helmet, for crying out loud. They wear a visor and all of those things. And good on them, that's the game. If they're scared of a corky, they shouldn't play it, in my view, but there you are. Brian Close was brought back into the England side, former captain, brought back into the England side to face the likes of Dennis Lilly, who was terrorising British batsmen, and to face the likes of Jeff Thompson, who was doing the same. And all he had by way of protection was a cricket box, which is always advisable, and his pads. That was it. He didn't have anything else. He just had his ordinary cricket pads, his leg pads. He went out there and they hurtled these balls at him, and they hit him. They hit him hard. And all he did was he rubbed it. He went, whew, rubbed it, and got back to the cricket. That's what we used to have representing our country. Now we've got people who, frankly, need the services of a social worker just to play cricket. For God's sake, what the hell has gone wrong? I'll tell you what's gone wrong. We've listened to all those cretins who told us that you must express your feelings. If you don't express your feelings, they'll bottle up inside you and they'll do you harm. What utter tosh. If you don't express your feelings, fine. They'll just wither on the vine and you'll move on to the next thing. We don't need all this bleeding liberal crap. We don't. We don't need it. What we need is, yeah, it's tough. It's crap. I've had some bad news. Now, can we get on? That's what we need. Simon in Haywood says, I was at a friend's house the other night and I noticed an advertisement for a forthcoming television programme on one of the satellite television music channels. From what I could gather, it would follow Callum Best, the son of footballer George Best, as for 50 nights he doesn't have sex. Welcome to my life. My first thought was, surely this would be a better programme if Mr. Best was having sex for 50 nights. That's what you call keepy uppy. Ho-ho! Sorry. It's his dad that was the footballer anyway. However, if this show is a success, maybe the idea could have a sequel. And if it's very successful, perhaps there's hope for your television career. How about 50 Days of Beswick being nice to people? Watching you squirm whilst having to listen to some of your callers would be fascinating television. Simon, you need a life. 20 past 12 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines and stuff. Michelle Adamson.
A teenage mum-to-be has died the day after she was sent home from Rochdale Infirmary. 17-year-old Kaylee Burke thought she'd gone into labour and went to Rochdale Infirmary with crippling stomach pains. A rescue team looking for a missing walker from Rochdale has recovered a body from a mountain gully in Snowdonia. 4 days before the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games, 16 Chinese policemen have been killed in a suspected terrorist attack. Manchester's weather drier and brighter this afternoon with highs of 20 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
Well, prepare yourself for possible delays if you're travelling around the centre of Manchester on Deansgate. That stretch is actually closed at the moment between Key Street and Bootle Street for ongoing gas main work and water main work. Usually causes traffic to slow down a tad. And on the diversion routes as well. Watch out for queues there. Ongoing until the 22nd of this month. In Royton, Shaw Road is still closed off for resurfacing work between Oldham Road and Edge Lane Street. Again, there is a diversion for you. I've not heard of it causing any major queues yet. And in Wigan, Warrington Road southbound as well, the A49 still has one lane closed off at the moment around Highfield Grange Avenue. No problems on the motorways though, and thankfully no accidents or incidents. If you want to update us, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Maria Jackson.
You're never more than 20 minutes away from the latest traffic through the day.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Good morning to Paul in Salford. Hiya, Paul.
Morning.
What have you got for us?
We had a chat last week about the citizens' arrest. You put me straight on that one. This time it's about people who drink and drive. Why don't we stop pussyfooting around, mate, and make it totally illegal to drink and drive? Not drink too much and drive, but just to drink and drive.
Well, how would you measure it?
Just ban it altogether, mate.
Well, you ban it, yes, but in order to convict somebody of doing it, what would you use as the measure? How would you decide that a person was guilty of drink driving? How would you do that?
If they've got alcohol in their blood.
That, on the face of it, makes sense, except, for example, if you went out and had a pint of beer tonight, it is possible that at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning you would still have a very, very, very tiny, but nonetheless present, alcohol in your blood system. Is that the person you want locked up?
Yeah.
You do?
I do, yeah.
Even if it's almost not there?
Almost not there. Total zero tolerance.
Well, I understand zero tolerance. Zero tolerance is a phrase that refers to how we tolerate offenders. What you and I are discussing now is who is and who isn't an offender.
Yep.
When they used to say you are not allowed to be drunk in charge of a vehicle, they had grave difficulty deciding who was and who was not drunk. They invented strange tests, like every police station had a white line on the floor and you had to walk along it.
Yep.
They had you standing with your arms out whilst you stood on one leg.
Like they do in the States.
Like they do in the States, to establish whether you are or are not out of control. What Barbara Castle did, it was her that brought in the breathalyzer, what she did was said, what we'll do is we will pick a level of alcohol in the blood, because that's science, we can prove that. We measure your blood, we take a sample of your blood, we count the atoms, if you like, of alcohol in your blood, and then we say, at 85 units, whatever it is, you're incapable of driving properly. Now, there is an argument.
Is it 35 millilitres or something?
I don't know the exact figures.
Well, I know you was a driving instructor, so I think you will know.
Well, I don't know.
Right.
So I don't know the exact figure. But whatever the figure is, they decided what it would be. Now, there is some discussion that we should reduce that figure. But if we reduce it to 0, we may get into the position where somebody has a sherry trifle on a Sunday afternoon, and on Tuesday they get stopped. Not because they've done something wrong, but in a random test. They're breathalyzed, and I suppose it is possible that there would be a minuscule trace.
You know, there was 2 people killed yesterday on the M62. One of them was a child. I don't really want to go into that because it's sub judice at the moment. However, when are we going to learn that it's dangerous, like mountaineering, to drink and drive?
Well, I think we've learned. The problem at the moment is that there are people who are prepared to take the chance. Now, there are a lot fewer, and the number of people dying on our roads or being killed on our roads is considerably fewer than it was years ago. It's just if you have a thing that says absolute 0 is all that we will tolerate, you then end up with an awful lot of people who, frankly, were behaving reasonably going to jail.
Yeah. Well, that's a reasonable argument against absolute 0 tolerance, but who decided in all the wisdom that 35 millilitres or 2 pints of beer was okay?
Well, in the end, the government decided when they brought in the legislation. The person that recommended that figure to Parliament was Barbara Castle. The people that recommended it to Barbara Castle, I don't know, but there will have been a lot of work done. It was they'd have done the work in 1966, 67, because the legislation, if I remember correctly, came in 68.
Yeah. Right.
And it will have been then that the figures were established, that was an acceptable figure. Now, as I say...
Sorry, what was you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say that there is an argument at the moment that we reduce that figure.
Yeah, dramatically. How about when a person gets pulled up by the police and it's proved positive, they blow into the machine at the police station, that's proved positive, they hold their hands up, a conviction secured, why are they not going to prison?
Because the law at the moment doesn't require that they go to prison. The law requires that they be banned from driving for a minimum period, and that they are fined within fiscal ranges, but it's quite a serious fine. I mean, we can change the law, we can say that they must all go to prison, but if we do that, we're going to have an awful lot of people in prison who, frankly, won't get much benefit from it.
I dare say that the people who were killed yesterday, they're bereaved relatives.
Well, let us not dwell on the people that died yesterday, because we don't know. We don't know whether alcohol was a factor, and frankly, it's irrelevant. There are other people who die on the roads. It is a fact that there are people who break the law.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there wouldn't be any point in the law. We wouldn't need it.
Right.
So, if we're going to make laws, we're going to have people that break them. There are considerably fewer people drinking and driving now than there were in the 60s. Sadly, I'm told that the figure is on the increase.
Yeah.
But there are considerably fewer than there were. All right. Good on you.
Thank you for talking to me. Let's get them locked up.
Well, if that's what you want, fine. Good on you, Paul. Paul says the drink-drive limit, as it were, the alcohol in the blood limit should be 0, and the sentence should be custodial. What do you say? 0161 228 2255. If you wish to join us, feel free. Sorry for laughing, but you know how when you watch television now or listen to the radio, if ever there's a programme that deals with anything related to social issues, there's always an announcement at the end saying, and if you've been affected by anything you've heard on the programme, ring such and such a number. Well, Dave in Greenfield says, please advise your listeners, if they've been affected by anything they've heard on this programme, don't bother to phone you, or you'll tell them to sod off. They should fill the rivers with counsellors, but for the fact it would ruin the fishing. Thank you for that. You've really been a great help. 0161 228 2255. Gren in St Helens. Hiya, Gren.
Hello, hi. Listening to your programme the other week, and somebody was talking about they're termed as travellers, as gypsies, as, I'm trying to think of the other word they used, can't remember now. I used to write with a girl who was a member of one of those families, show folk or whatever. A few years ago, I was working in Bolton and was delivering some stuff to somebody. Came into an area that was basically common land and was covered in caravans, trucks, mobile homes, all sorts. And the people there were trading out of the back. People were turning up to buy things. And then you had the usual, tarmacking and driveway stuff. And as I was walking through it, I had to walk through that covered a whole area in front of the building I wanted to get to. I had to walk round these. None of them had any tax desks. Now, whether that implied they had no insurance, I don't know. And I didn't hear the end of your programme. Why don't the police actually prosecute these people?
I think they do from time to time.
Right, because at the time I'd heard, and this is hearsay, but people were saying, I said, look at all this, I know we've called the police out, they can't do anything with them. And while they were there, I don't know if it was the police or council had turned up, and this guy said, do you want to buy this? No, mate, thanks very much, I don't want to buy, carpet or whatever you're selling. And when they turned up, then suddenly these people, Romanies, that's what I was trying to say, these people couldn't speak English. And they had to get a young child who could try and translate. So obviously they were just avoiding everything. And you don't see many reports of, like if you and I were driving around without tax and insurance, we'd be stopped, random spot checked by the police. If we couldn't pay a very, very hefty fine, or even if we could, our car would be crushed. Because it's illegal, you have no licence, you have no tax, you have no insurance, and that's the penalty now. It doesn't seem to be that that's happening with these people.
Well, I don't know that you know that.
Well, as I say, I appreciate you like solid evidence, and no, I can't prove that. It's just that when you look in papers, you look in the news, I use the internet, there's hardly any mention of these sort of penalties being given out. But
hang on a minute, how would you want it announced? I'm a bit confused.
News items, no, I mean just looking at news items, it's rarely reported that this is happening. I wonder if that... I'm not making an accusation, I'm just saying
first of all,
it's indicative.
I'll come back. Let us assume that there is a report that says, I'll pick a name at random, Allan Beswick has had his car confiscated and crushed.
Yes.
How would you know, reading that report, what that particular Allan Beswick did for a living, or indeed didn't do for that? How would you know whether he was a traveller or not?
Exactly, yeah.
How would you
I see
know?
what you mean, because normally...
So when we read such reports, it is possible, though unlikely, it is possible that every single one of them was a traveller.
Yeah, I've seen reports where they say, this is linking on to your other caller, saying they have a lot of trouble evicting people from these sites.
They do have a lot of trouble.
Because the law doesn't seem geared for that type of eviction or that type of lawmaking. And I'm just saying, it just annoys me that these people, I'm not saying there's an answer to it, but it's an observation that these people don't pay insurance, probably don't pay any tax, haven't got licences valid here. A lot come from the Southern Ireland.
If you are from the south of Ireland and you come to the United Kingdom, your south of Ireland driving licence is valid here.
Okay.
Rather like your German driving licence is valid here, as is your American, your Czechoslovakian, your Swedish. And indeed, when you go on holiday, if you hire a car, they don't make you take a driving test because your licence is valid there.
Right. Fair point. Okay. I just wondered if you'd had any comment on the fact that, and I say that I'm just asking a point for discussion. Maybe I have no firm evidence that you tend not to see their cars being towed away or crushed or anything. As you say, there's no empirical evidence for that. But it seems as though because they have no permanent address or place of abode, then the legal system does seem to fall down. Because you've said often, and we've agreed on this, if you and I did anything, they know where we live, they just come round, you're traceable. It's much easier for them to prosecute me and you.
Well, no, it's easier to prosecute those individuals. It's as easy. We have a variety of processes by which it can be done. If we work on the basis that they are foreign, now we don't know that that's the case, but if we work on the basis that they are foreign, we hear all the time of foreign truck drivers, and foreign truck drivers can have their vehicle impounded until they pay the fines, and they can simply be spot fines. So there is legislation available.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting. I know you'd have more knowledge than myself on it, and I was interested in your view of, as I say, a follow-up to the other guy last week.
Oh, I don't have a view, but I do sometimes have information. Good information. Let's not call it knowledge. That gives me more credit than I'm entitled to.
One quick thing as well. In a big retailer the other week, with all the digital switchover for TVs, I wasn't aware that you can buy one of these LCD or plasma TVs with free viewing, and you can actually get a freestanding portable area. You know the old portable TVs. I've got one that you've probably got.
Go on, tell me what you mean by an aerial.
Yeah, well, an aerial, it literally plugs in the side of the set. It's a freestanding one that you put on the top. Well, not with these slim ones, but you put on the top of an old CRT TV, and it works. It picks up the signal. I.e., you don't have to plug in to your main aerial or any other source. Now, I wasn't aware they were about, but apparently they're being sold if you ask for them. They'd much prefer you to plug in to, one of the satellite...
or Freeview or any of those. Well, I didn't know there was an aerial either.
Yeah, well, I'm just
now
saying...
we know. The information...
Whether it's any good...
The information is imparted. We'll let others decide whether it's any good or not. Good on you, Graham.
All right, bye.
Cheers, mate. If you're interested in talking about the congestion charge, BBC Radio Manchester is travelling about over the next 5 weeks or so to talk about the big decision that we'll all have to face. There's going to be a referendum in each of the 10 local authorities. Are you yay or nay to the congestion charge? Well, they're going to be at Stockport. We're going to be at Stockport tomorrow morning from 8 till 11, and in Heaton Mersey from 11:30 outside the Crown Pub on Vale Close. Come and have a say. Come along and let us know what you think of the congestion charge. You can tell me as well if you like, but I've not heard anyone come on and tell me how good it was or will be. But we're getting a vote. I got my, the form where we can have our say. We got them, didn't we? Well, I got mine, and lots of others got theirs. I don't know whether everybody got one. And I filled it in and sent it back, but it strikes me as being more than a little bit irrelevant now, given that there's going to be a vote. A referendum, indeed 10 referenda. But I sent it back anyway, just for the hell of it. Just for the experience. But that's what we were going to be fobbed off with, but there was enough complaint and grumbling that we ended up getting a referenda. Yeah, a referendum. You might be able to help Shirley. Shirley says, I'm looking for a place to take a computer that I've finished with, so that they can give it to the third world or something similar. Can you help? Is there a place where computers are recycled for people in the third world, or even, if necessary, charities and the like? If you know any, don't... Because we haven't got time to take addresses down and all that, and if you know about computers, you'll be on the internet. Send me an email. It's radiomanchester@bbc.co.uk. If you know where Shirley can dispose of, to a good cause, as they say, a computer. She doesn't just want to give it to the local charity shop or whatever. She wants it to go to a controllably good home. I've just invented that phrase. Rubbish, innit? 0161 228 2255. What do you think of the poster we've been telling you about this morning? The police have managed to lock up a few baddies. Frankly, it's a bit like me putting a poster up saying, Allan Beswick successfully taught crap for 2 hours on Friday. It's kind of what I do. That's what I do. That's Allan Beswick successfully taught crap for 2 hours on Thursday. and Wednesday. That's what I do. It's nothing to boast about, but it's what I do. I talk crap for 2 hours. That's it. Why would I tell everybody I've been really, really successful? The coppers lock up a few baddies. Good. But that's what they do. Do we really need an advert? Do we need a dirty, great big poster in Hume saying the police have done? What have they done? They've done what we pay the beggars for. The police have done what we pay them for. Yippee! Shouldn't we put one up saying there are thousands of crimes unsolved? Let's cut the money. 20-1 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines and sport, starting with Michelle Adamson.
A teenage mum-to-be has died the day after she was sent home from Rochdale Infirmary. 17-year-old Kaylee Burke thought she'd gone into labour and went to Rochdale Infirmary with crippling stomach pains. Greater Manchester Police could be asked to re-examine the evidence in the Jill Dando case after Barry George was cleared of her murder. The Cheshire-based machine, which has helped create cleaner fuel, safer aircraft, new medicines and iPods, finally shuts down today, and Manchester's weather drier and brighter this afternoon, highs of 20 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester. 2020 traffic.
Well, thankfully no problems on the motorways at the moment. The M602 flowing nice and freely in and out of Manchester city centre. The M60 all quiet as well, nothing to contend with. Traffic's quite light, in fact. Winnick Road in Warrington is still restricted though, the A49 at its junction with Owen Street. Roadworks continue there. There is a diversion sign for you. Albert Road in Farnworth as well has temporary traffic lights in place while roadworks continue during off-peak periods at its junction with Harrowby Street. So again, that might slow your journey down slightly. And in Winton, Worsley Road still closed off as well after a sewer collapse between New Lane and Parran Lane. Usually causes a few delays in the surrounding routes. If you want to update us, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Maria Jackson.
BBC Radio Manchester. Sports with Will Perry.
Good afternoon. Well, Kevin Peterson is expected to be named as England's Test and One-Day cricket captain today. The England and Wales Cricket Board are due to make the announcement at Lord's in around 20 minutes' time. Well, yesterday, of course, Michael Vaughan tearfully resigned as Test skipper, while Paul Collingwood left his post leading the One-Day side. There's been plenty of opinions on this, as expected. We've heard from Alex Stewart and Mike Gatting. Now here's another former England captain, Graham Gooch. He believes the batsman is the logical choice.
On balance, when you weigh up the other candidates, Rob Key maybe from outside, Alistair Cook and Andrew Strauss within the team, I think Peterson is the best choice. He's certainly the best player in the side. That's no reason to be captain. But you also need to want to be captain as well. Looking at it, one day and 5-day cricket, you know, he's got to be the man, because England needs someone who they can respect, someone that can take them forward over a period of time. There is precedence for the best player being the captain of the side. Alan Border did it for Australia, Viv Richards, way back. They were both successful, so why not?
Well, that press conference is scheduled for 1 o'clock this afternoon, so around 20 minutes' time. We'll let you know as soon as we hear here on BBC Radio Manchester. Well, the former Manchester United striker Ruud van Nistelrooy believes Real Madrid will fail in their attempts to sign Cristiano Ronaldo, despite claims that the Reds winger will demand a move when he returns to Manchester tomorrow. Van Nistelrooy says it's gone too far and it's very distracting. Meanwhile, United continue their pre-season preparations this evening. That's with a friendly game at Sir Alex Ferguson's son Darren's Peterborough. Elsewhere, Bolton, they're at Aris Salonika in Greece, and Wanderers, of course, met them in last season's UEFA Cup. Liverpool midfielder Sebastian Leto has been denied a work permit to play in England next season. Manager Rafa Benitez will now loan the winger out to a foreign club, but is hopeful that the Argentine will return to Liverpool next year. Manchester City's latest signing, Tal Ben-Haim, made his debut for the Blues on Saturday in the 2-2 draw with Stockport at Edgeley Park. The former Bolton and Chelsea defender, who cost City £5 million, says the club's fans deserve success.
Yeah, I think it's a good club with great expectation. You know, they want to go forward. Fantastic fans that deserve definitely more than what they got in the last 20 years. They need some to see some more winnings and more attacking football, more aggressive, more passion to the game.
Oldham boss John Sheridan has dismissed suggestions that making the playoffs would be a realistic target for the club, insisting they should be pushing for an automatic place. Well, the Latics, who finished 8th last season, open against Millwall at Boundary Park on Saturday.
After finishing 6th and 8th, I'm going to go for automatic. I have to. I want to go straight up. I don't want to get in the playoffs. I mean, the playoffs will be nice, but I'm looking at automatic. I feel as though if I keep everyone fit and get belief and get consistency in our game more than anything, I think we'll be up there, because I think I've got the players that can match the teams in this division. I know that there'll be 10 or 12 teams in this division who'll probably be saying the same thing as I'm saying, so I've got to believe we'll be one of the two who'll get up there, and that's what I'm going to go out with, that attitude.
So there's just 4 days to go until the start of the new football season. Don't forget to join Jimmy Wagg from 1 o'clock on Saturday for the all-new Manchester Sports for coverage of all our local sides on the opening day. Paula Radcliffe says she intends to run in the marathon at the Beijing Olympics. The world record holder is recovering from a stress fracture in her left thigh and admits she's not running at her fastest.
Yeah, it's probably not as good as when I set world records, but is it going to be a world record pace race? Probably not. It's probably going to be a stronger, tougher race. And it's the Olympics, so you take a risk on it. And you, as long as I feel that I think I'm healthy going into it, my leg's going to hold, I feel that I'm in good enough shape to give it a good shot, then I'll be in there fighting.
Well, Andy Murray has officially placed himself among the elite of world tennis after clinching the most significant title of his career. His straight sets win over world number 3 Novak Djokovic in the Cincinnati Masters means he's now 6 in the world rankings. Some sad news, a motorcyclist has died in hospital following a crash in the British leg of the World Supersport Championship at Brands Hatch yesterday. Honda rider Craig Jones suffered serious head injuries in the 9th round on Sunday. He was transferred to the Royal London Hospital by air ambulance but died in the early hours of this morning. And finally, in Speedway, Bellevue Aces, they host Ipswich in the Elite League this evening.
This is the Northwest's biggest sports station. This is BBC Radio Manchester.
They hoist the European Cup high above them. Manchester United are champions.
No one covers more of Manchester sports, which is why we're the Northwest's biggest sports station. The all-new Manchester Sports. Saturday at 1. BBC Radio Manchester.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Hours upon hours of Jimmy Wagg and the best sport in the world. Brian in Warrington, hiya.
Good afternoon, Alan. I just listened to you earlier on about Brian Close.
Yeah.
That the courage he showed. But I didn't agree with the bowlers that you mentioned. I thought it was Wes Hall and Charlie Griffiths of the West Indies.
Hmm.
And I think they lost the test match.
Oh, I think they lost,
But
yeah.
he took a hammering, you know.
He got absolutely pummeled.
He did. Wes Hall and Charlie Griffiths bowling at 90, 95 miles an hour. And Brian Close batting with no pads, no hats, you know.
No, well, he had his cricket pads, but nothing beyond that.
And he walked down the pitch to try and lift the team.
Yeah.
I remember the experts in the newspapers at the time said he'll never play for England again. And he did. He did.
Well, you see, I think we're both right. I think you're right in that he did face those bowlers, but I'm talking about when he was virtually brought out of retirement.
The captain.
I don't think he did captain. I think he just came out.
But he came out of retirement.
And he faced the batsman. And I thought, well, others will know, and I'm prepared to believe it was, because they both scare me, it was Wes Hall and his ilk, but I actually thought it was the...
You know,
well, I will take your superior knowledge of cricket.
No, Alan, it's just bad news. I'm sat here now praising a Yorkshireman, and I'm a Lancastrian.
It's not easy, is it?
No.
It's not a comfortable sensation
Alan,
by any means.
I might go to drink. I might start drinking.
Do be careful. Don't drive, else Paul will be on to you.
Indeed. I won't drive tomorrow morning. Okay?
No.
But,
well, OK. Well, let's see what others think.
But on a serious note, Alan, another thing Brian Close said, and it always stuck with me, he didn't like the idea of foreigners, of 2 or 3 foreigners playing at county level.
No, he didn't, but he was a Yorkshireman, and as far as he was concerned, a foreigner was someone who wasn't born in Yorkshire.
Oh, indeed.
Because Yorkshire held that policy till the end, didn't they?
Indeed.
Till the last.
But you see, you have to think about it. I mean, we had Farouk Engineer at Lancashire.
We did.
Clive Lloyd. How many youngsters did they keep out the side, Alan?
Well, this is the constant gripe, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like our English football team, isn't it?
Well, if you say yes to that, if you say, right, we're not going to allow foreign players playing for our county sides, we also have the sense that the inevitability that our young players won't be allowed to go and play abroad.
Agreed.
So they won't get the experience that they get playing in the Australia. They used to call it, what was it called? the something Shield used to be the big cup in Australia, didn't it? Go on and play it. The Sheffield Shield, I think it was. They won't get the opportunity to play in the Windies, to play in India. So it swings and roundabouts. We would possibly gain from such an exclusion.
I don't think Brian Clough was saying don't let them in. He was saying control it. I mean, Alex Murphy, who's my great hero, my
the rugby league man, yeah, good old Alex.
I mean, he said the same. All the coaches in England are Aussies. Telling me we can't produce good English coaches? Are you telling me the number of Aussies playing in the English rugby? I think they're coming over to increase the pension fund, but that's just my view.
Well, some of them are, but some of them come over here at a younger age. The reality is that the standard of... I mean, rugby league is a subject very close to my heart, as you possibly know. The standard of play in rugby league in the past...
Raised by the Aussies.
Raised by the Aussies.
I would agree with that, Alan.
Now, what are we to do? If we were insular and said we're not going to have those people coming here...
We would lose out.
We won't lose out. We'd still have the best we've got, but I think the best we've got wouldn't be as good.
But you see, you're talking to a guy who watched Brian Bevan for 18 years.
Well...
So everything pales into it.
Well, guess where he was from?
Everything is rubbish.
Where was he from? Where was Brian Bevan from?
Australia.
So long as we know that. Good on you, Brian.
I'm just saying that everything's rubbish compared to him.
Well, he was good, without a doubt.
But it was the Aussies. It was the West Indian fast bowlers.
Well, others will confirm that, or indeed correct that. But I will go to my grave.
I'm talking to you, singing the praises of a Yorkshireman.
I'm dealing with it. I hope you can cope. Good on you, Brian.
Take the pills.
Have a good day, mate. 0161 228 2255. I still remember it being Lillian Thompson, but it could equally have been the West Indians. You tell me. I don't know. I'm all confused now, but I was certain it was those two. But you tell me if it's otherwise. Paul in Oldham. Hiya, Paul.
Hey, good afternoon, Alan.
Good afternoon to you.
All it is I used to live in a bed 7 years ago, and I just wanted your advice on something. 7 years on, I get a letter last week saying that it's not the council now, it's been took over by an housing, just been took over, and they want £355 off me. Now, I phoned them up and said, look, first I've heard of it, and they're just giving me a load of abuse, and saying that I've got to pay this money, and they're going to send this bailiff round and all this lot. I just wanted your advice, really, because...
What's it for? What's the bill for?
Rent.
Rent?
Yeah.
I think it's statute barred. I don't think you owe them the money.
No, I've obviously 7 years on, I haven't got any proof.
You're right back and you say, debts die after 6 years, so go to hell.
Right, because I've tried ringing the same advice and I can't get through to them.
Well, they are very, very busy.
Very busy.
But now, there is a problem in that if it was the local authority, the rules are slightly different, but it's not the local authority now, it's a housing association. They're claiming back rent, and frankly, unless you've done something to avoid paying them, such as changing name and all sorts of other terrible things, then, frankly, the general rule is debts die after 6 years. The general rule. It's not universally the case, but it's very nearly universal. So write back to them and say, I thought debts died. I thought they used this phrase, statute. It's like statue, but with a T in it. Statute, barred. B-A-R-R-E-D, like when you're not allowed in the pub anymore. Right. So write back and said, I rather thought debts were statute barred from collection after 6 years. Thank you. Goodbye. That's what you say.
Because when I phoned up and explained that, obviously, I've just got the letter, all I got was, well, you owe it, and I've tried to explain.
Well, like I say, write back to them. Now, this is a good starting point. You write back to them and say, I rather understood that debts became statute barred from collection after 6 years.
Right.
Because the only thing they can do if you don't pay them is sue you. Right. But if your defence at court is 6 years have passed, they're going to have the devil's own job to succeed. Right. If it was your council tax or anything like that, slightly different. That's a legal bill. That's a criminally enforced bill, and is slightly different. But generally, remember I said generally, I'm not a lawyer, but generally, debts die after 6 years. They're no longer... Well, I'm wrong in that statement. They don't die, but they're no longer enforceable at court. There are exceptions to it. Because it's the local authority, this might be one of them. But you start from the position, Paul, you write back and you say, I'm sorry, it's more than 6 years old, it's no longer collectible.
Right. And then just leave it at that and then...
Well, wait and see what happens. If they write back to you and say, no, it doesn't apply in this case, then you say, well, fine, take me to court, and I'll go to court and say I don't owe the money, but even if I did, I thought it was dead by now, and see where they go. Obviously, they're going to write to you and hope you pay. If you write back and say, I'm not paying, and this is the reason I'm not paying, I think they've got to make the next move, haven't they?
I was just a bit alarmed that when I did phone, the lady on the other side of the phone was dead cocky and dead arrogant with me. And
well, if you owed me 350 quid, I'd probably be a bit cocky and a bit arrogant with you as well.
But I don't owe it her personally. I owe it, you know.
Well, I know, yeah, but that's her job. Her job is to get you to pay it.
Yeah.
Your job is to pay what you owe, but there does eventually come a time when you have to say, no, the world's moved on.
Right, well,
so you write back, remember that phrase, statute barred from collection.
Thank you very much, Alan.
Give it a try. I wish you luck. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Alex in Bury. Hiya, Alex.
Afternoon, Alan.
Afternoon.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to the earlier caller who requested a zero alcohol limit for drink driving.
Yeah.
And as you pointed out, it's totally unworkable for various reasons. I mean, for one example, there are other products that contain alcohol, such as mouthwash.
Oh yes, of course, yes.
Which can skew the results and give false readings, so to speak.
Yeah.
So for all kinds of reasons, it just would not work, and you'd end up with a lot of, I'd say, innocent people, if you can use that phrase, being convicted.
You couldn't even drink commercial shandy. By commercial shandy, I mean them tins you get off the shelf that are no more than 2% proof, but they must have some beer in. So you couldn't even drink that with safety. But what do you think of a reduction of the current limit?
I can see an argument for it. I mean, I think Australia is often used as an example as having a lower drink drive limit than the UK. I'd be quite open to that. I don't drink personally, or to put it another way, if I do drink, I am very careful not to exceed the legal limit. But a reduction wouldn't really concern me that much. But again, I think there are a lot of people who struggle to abide by the limit as it is now. So I think what you would probably see is an increase in the conviction rate, I think.
Possibly. There would be more people convicted. I don't know. Certainly, if the announcement was made, then clearly, the people who do drink and drive and drink what they think is up to their limit, but think they're doing the right thing, would change their drinking and driving habits to meet the new legislation. But yes, there would be more people convicted, for want of a better term, accidentally.
Yes.
If we reduced it, but it would have if you like, the average amount of alcohol in the system of the blood systems of the people of the UK would diminish overnight. So that might be a good thing.
I mean, just to add another thing. I mean, as I've said before, I've come on the show, I am a probation officer, and for those convicted of first-time drink driving offences, they usually get a fine, a ban, and as is the norm now, put on a drink driving awareness program as part of their community sentence.
They get offered a deal, don't they, often, that if they go on this course, the fine is less, or even the ban is less, the duration of the ban is less if they go on one of these awareness courses.
That's absolutely correct. But if they're repeat drink drive offenders, then eventually they will go to custody.
Indeed, in the end, that's where you end up. Good on you, thank you, Alex.
Okay.
Go to custody, that's a lovely euphemism, isn't it? Go to custody. Are we any further? Is there anybody who can get to the bottom of this thing about Brian Close? Who was it he faced when he came out courageously to face the baddies of the time, the evil, wicked, cruel foreign bowlers of the time? Was it the Windies, as was suggested by Brian? Not that one. Or was it indeed the Australians, as suggested by me? I need to know now. You see, I didn't care 20 minutes ago, but now I need to know. If you know, then please tell me. Put me out my misery, but not with a revolver. which is one of the thoughts. You have to be careful.
Have your kids ever caught you doing something you shouldn't have been doing? We're going to hear your stories tonight from 10 with me, Sam Walker.
That's a list, isn't it? What sort of things could they catch you doing that you shouldn't be doing? I'm not dwelling. Well, most of the things you're allowed to do them if everyone's a volunteer, I'm told. Aren't you?
95.1 FM.
DAB Digital Radio.
And the World Wide Web.
This is Manchester.
BBC Radio Manchester.
At 1 o'clock, a pregnant teenager dies a day after being sent home from a Rochdale hospital. Hundreds of newly married couples face a wait for their wedding presents after a gift service went into administration.
And Kevin Peterson is set to be announced as England's new Test and One-Day captain any minute now.
Well, this afternoon the weather will brighten up and we'll see some sunny spells and top temperatures of 20 Celsius.
And just getting reports of problems on the M60 junction 23 for Ashton on the clockwise side because of an accident. Apparently one lane is closed off. I will bring more updates as I get them.
Good afternoon, I'm Michelle Adamson. A teenage mum-to-be has died the day after she was sent home from Rochdale Infirmary with stomach pains. Faye Rusco has more details.
17-year-old Kaylee Burke thought she'd gone into labour and went to Rochdale Infirmary with crippling stomach pains. But doctors diagnosed a urine infection and sent her away. When she got home, her condition became worse. But when Kaylee's family called the hospital, they were told there was nothing doctors could do. Kaylee was rushed back to hospital the next day, but her baby died. 5 hours later, Kaylee also lost her battle for life. Rochdale Infirmary say they're unable to comment as the case has been passed on to the coroner.
Our news just in, Kevin Peterson has been appointed England cricket captain. We'll have more on that in the sport next. The wedding list present service Rapid has gone into administration. Rapid handles about 3,000 wedding lists every year with an average value of £2,000 to £3,000 per order. A 36-year-old man's been charged after drugs, a gun and 47 bullets were found during raids in Oldham and Rochdale. 36-year-old Mark Sindri from Cuckold has been charged with possession of a firearm, ammunition, cannabis and Class A drugs with intent to supply. He's due before Rochdale magistrates later. A rescue team looking for a missing walker from Rochdale have found a body in a mountain gully in Snowdonia. The man had been camping locally and the alarm was raised on Friday when it was realised he hadn't paid his fees for some time. It's thought the dead man is thought to have fallen between 200 and 300 feet. Greater Manchester Police could be asked to re-examine the evidence in the Jill Dando case after Barry George was cleared of her murder. Detectives are meeting today to decide whether to close the case or relaunch the investigation. It's likely another force would be brought in to review the vast body of evidence collected during what was one of the country's biggest murder inquiries. An airline which used a faulty jet to fly passengers 3,000 miles from Liverpool to New York has been fined £5,000. Globespan Airways Limited pleaded guilty to using the Boeing 757 with 2 engine thrust indicators out of action. Israeli police say they're waiting to question the parents of a 4-year-old girl about a misunderstanding which resulted in them flying to Paris without her. The child was found alone in the duty-free shops at Ben Gurion Airport yesterday. The parents boarded the flight with 4 of their 5 children and only realised their mistake 45 minutes after takeoff. A spokesman for Israeli police, Mickey Rosenfeld, explained what happened.
This took place, in fact, because the family wasn't sitting together. The father was sitting at the back of the plane, the mother was sitting at the front of the plane. And what happened was the kids were sitting with the parents at different areas. And didn't realise that the 4-year-old girl hadn't got on the plane.
The Cheshire-based machine, which has helped create cleaner fuels, safer aircraft, new medicines and iPods, finally shuts down today. The synchrotron radiation source at the Daresbury Laboratory near Warrington produces intense beams of light which reveal the structure of atoms and molecules inside materials. But the machine's come to the end of its life and will be formally shut down today.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Will Perry.
Well, as expected, the news just in, Kevin Pietersen has been named as England's Test and One-Day cricket captain. That was at Lord's this afternoon. Of course, yesterday Michael Vaughan-Tiffley resigned as Test skipper, while Paul Collingwood left his post leading the One-Day side. Some other news, Ravi Bopara replaces Michael Vaughan in the Test squad for the 4th Test against South Africa, starting at the Oval on Thursday. And Matt Pryor and Samit Patel have been called up for the One-Day series against South Africa. Lancashire's Andrew Flintoff, he's in there as well for both the Test and the One-Day games. So, as expected, Kevin Pietersen named as England's new captain. Former Manchester United striker Ruud van Nistelrooy believes Real Madrid will fail in their attempts to sign Cristiano Ronaldo, despite claims that the Reds winger will demand a move when he returns to Manchester tomorrow. Van Nistelrooy says it's gone too far and now it's very distracting. Meanwhile, United continue their pre-season preparations this evening with a friendly game at Darren Ferguson's Peterborough. Elsewhere, Bolton are at Aris Salonika in Greece. Wanderers, of course, met them in last season's UEFA Cup. Paula Radcliffe says she intends to run in the marathon at the Beijing Olympics as long as she feels healthy and believes her leg will hold up. The world record holder is recovering from a stress fracture in her left thigh.
BBC Radio Manchester, satellite weather with Heather Stott.
Well, the weather is improving as we go through this afternoon. Most of the showers will move away, although there's still the chance of seeing one or two along the Pennines. But for most of us, it's a dry afternoon, and we will see some sunshine at times. Top temperatures 20 Celsius.
Lunchtimes belong to Beswick.
Allan Beswick.
BBC Radio Manchester.
I've been on my holidays, so it's okay now for me to scare you. A budget airline which flew a faulty jet 3,000 miles across the Atlantic after it had been struck by lightning was fined £5,000 today. Despite knowing 2 engine pressure radio indicators, EPRs, were out of action, Globespan Airways Limited used some optimistic interpretation of the rules to allow the Boeing 757 to take off with 20 passengers. As a result, the crew were forced to manually adjust the throttle with the help of another gauge. The failure was discovered hours before the incident on June the 22nd last year during an inbound flight from New York's JFK to Liverpool. Good Lord, is all I've got to say. Good Lord. How scary. Peter in Worsley. Hiya, Peter.
Hello, Alan. You were talking earlier about Brian Close and a particular game.
Yes.
As I remember it, it was an England against West Indies.
Oh, no!
At Old Trafford.
Was it?
Yes. The bowlers involved at that time, the West Indies had a very strong pace attack, and from memory, certainly Michael Holding would be one, Andy Roberts, probably Wayne Daniel, and there must have been a fourth, I can't remember, because they generally had 4 fast bowlers.
Yeah, they did, yeah, and they marmalised us.
Absolutely. And in that game, Close had been brought back into the side at quite an advanced age. I'm not sure how old he was, but he could well have been well into
He was old for an international cricketer.
Indeed, yes. And the particular passage of play, and again, if memory serves me right, it was in the second innings. And he'd opened the innings with John Edrich, who was another very experienced, very tough cricketer. And really, they were targeted by some persistent, short-pitched bowling, which
ferocious bowling.
Ferocious bowling,
it was described at the time.
But also, I think, intended to intimidate. And a lot of commentators at the time thought it went a little bit too far, a little bit over the top.
As they did indeed during the Bodyline tour, when we were guilty of the same thing.
Indeed. I think there was considerable similarities there. And I remember them batting for quite a while. I think they opened the innings. They might have put on 50 or so. Yeah. But they were repeatedly struck on the body. And one thing I would take issue with you about, I don't think when Close was hit, I don't think he rubbed it.
He didn't. You're right.
He wasn't that sort of character.
He wasn't, was he? He wouldn't let them see it hurt.
That's right.
I remember now. You're absolutely correct. So I've been wrong on 2 points here. I've done awfully well.
Yeah.
But at least he did it. He didn't strike his eyes out like that garmless, useless prat, Michael Vaughan. What was that about?
Well, it's the way, isn't it? I mean, it's quite surprising because one thing I've always thought about Vaughan is why he's been such a good captain. He's very tough.
Yeah, the next thing we'd always strike him.
Yeah, well, he's a Lancastrian as well, of course.
I know. It doesn't please me to say.
Yeah. So that was a little surprising.
We don't need it. It's all this rubbish that women have forced upon us about being in touch with your emotions.
Well, I have to agree with you there.
He said we're turning everybody into a big girl's blouse. We're going to be. You come back in 1,000 years' time. We're going to be bloody hermaphrodite.
Oh,
There's just going to be one gender in the species.
Yes, I think you could be right.
Oh,
but certainly Brian Close wasn't in
no, he wasn't.
in that mould. He was the tough Yorkie.
And it struck me as being a perfectly honourable way to be. I mean, I quite liked Michael Vaughan, but the blubbing on Friday, we don't need it.
No, it was out of character, I think, yeah.
He still did it.
He did.
We don't want public blubbing. It's not necessary.
No.
Anyway, good. It's only a bloody game. We're all set.
Indeed it is.
Good on you, mate. Well, thank you for confirming. It was Brian that put me right first, and you've confirmed it. I surrender.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Thanks a lot. And you. Bye.
Cheers. So, we've got a new captain now. Yeah, Michael Vaughan's going on to do adverts for Kleenex, I think it was, he said. 0161228 2255. Look, I don't care. I can't be doing with this modern world. A bunch of Jessies. Tim in Worsley. British athletes have been promised a new car if they win an Olympic gold medal. Could there be a link between this and Gordon Brown using a trainer to improve his fitness? I think Gordon Brown's got one or two more problems to contend with than a little bit of puppy fat, to be honest. I think he's got a lot more on his plate. Then again, if he had less on his plate, he wouldn't have the puppy fat. Oh dear, that's terrible. I didn't understand this. Scotland Yard detectives are going to meet today to discuss whether to reopen the Jill Dando murder investigation. Why? What is there to decide? There's nothing to decide. They locked up the wrong bloke. They got it wrong. Now, OK, that was rough on Barry George. It was rough on his family. But it was also rough on the family of Jill Dando and that bloke she was going to marry. It was rough on them because now there is somebody somewhere guilty of that murder. I don't think the cops have the right to decide whether they'll reopen it. That's their job. Oh, dear. Tim says Wikipedia confirms Brian Close return to face the West Indies. Must be wrong, then. Look, can I just... Look, it was the issue, not the facts, the issue that he came back and stood against these terrible, cruel boulders and didn't cry. That was what we were dealing with here. You've just got sidetracked and an opportunity to criticise me, which I think is very, very harsh. Sean, in Newtley Willers. Hiya, Sean.
All right, mate.
Yeah, thanks.
Right, I've just been listening to your show this morning.
Right.
And you've had some right wallies on there, haven't you?
No change, then.
Zero tolerance drinking. I mean, I don't drink, but that guy was talking out of his tree. The thing is, it's not the alcohol we should be worried about killing people on the roads. It's the blokes that are running around with knives thinking it's a field day. And anybody caught with a weapon to intent to harm people should be done away with. Simple as that. Stop you carrying them around the street, won't it? But because the government is so shoddy and soft in a lot of things it's doing lately, that's why you're ending up with all this. And the media is hyping it up so that they're actually thinking it's fun and games now, these kids.
I'm a bit confused. You seem to say, and I'm sure you didn't mean to, but I'm happy to hear you comment further about drink driving, that you don't think there should be any such legislation.
No, I don't. I think there should be a legislation where you shouldn't be driving and drinking. But as you rightly said before, you could have a trifle, a brandy trifle or a sherry trifle, and you could still have a bit in your system 24 hours later.
So it's zero tolerance. You're not agreeing with that. There's zero limit, right? But you do agree with some controls on drink driving.
Yeah,
okay.
I do. Yeah.
I'm confused by, or I was confused. I'm now fully conversant with your point of view. And the other one, the idea that if somebody is found to be carrying a weapon with intent to use it, they should be, I think the phrase you used was done away with.
Yeah, they should be.
What do you mean by that phrase?
Well, that phrase is locked up, finished for good.
Oh, well, which is it? Locked up, done away with, locked up, finished to good, for good. None of them quite make it for me in explaining your view, so...
Right, well, what it is, Alan, we're in a society now...
Yeah, no. I don't need an explanation of society's ills. I've got those. I was more interested in the point of view you were expressing when you said they should be done away with...
Meaning that they shouldn't be in the streets, they shouldn't be in society.
Shouldn't be in the streets, so they should go to prison if
life.
Convicted. For life. Forever.
For life.
Forever. For the rest of their life.
Yeah, if they're carrying a weapon around, right, they're out to do no good. The society never used to be like that. I mean, I'm 50 years of age now, and I lived in a society where everybody was out enjoying themselves. You got the odd nutter doing the stupid thing, but the way things are going now, it's not safe to walk corner shop. It's getting beyond belief now.
Why? When were you last attacked on the way to the corner shop?
Well, I'm carrying a big shotgun with me now in case somebody jumps out with a knife. That's how it's going to go.
So you think you should go to prison for life then?
Well, if I was to carry a weapon down the street, yeah.
Well, you just said you are doing, so which is it?
No, but I will do eventually if it gets that bad.
So when you said I am doing, you meant you will do?
That's like a little bit of a tease or a joke, do you know what I mean, Alan? That's how it's going into it.
Yeah.
You know that and I know that. I mean,
Well, I'm quite conversant with what I know, and I was hoping that you might reveal more of what you knew, but you keep saying these things that don't make any sense.
Well, would you not think they should be locked up?
My difficulty would be, how do you prove intent?
Well, put it this way, if you was Uncle Bobby walking down the street in non-uniform, I should say, right?
I don't know what you mean there. If I was a what? An Uncle Bobby?
No, if you was a Bobby walking down the street...
A police officer?
Non-uniform.
An ununiformed... a detective?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? I'm sure you could find people, gangs of lads walking down the street, and just on impulse, just check them. To see if they've got weapons on them.
Remember what you said. Well, Sean...
Yeah, but if you did that for 6 months, right... Yeah. Everybody that's carrying a knife on the street wouldn't do it, because if they got caught, they were going to be locked up for life.
Yeah,
they wouldn't do it.
Sean, what you said was, now you may want to change this, you may have just changed it, I'm not sure, but what you said was that those who are carrying a weapon with the intent to use it was what you said, and I'm wondering how we would prove that intent.
Well, I mean, you shouldn't have a weapon, full stop.
Well, that isn't what you said. Are you now saying anyone found with a weapon?
Yeah.
Right. How would you define a weapon?
Knives, guns.
Okay. Well, guns, we've already got that legislation, and, OK, we don't always lock them up, but perhaps we should. Yeah. And when you say guns, you don't mean legitimately owned shotguns, do you?
No, I mean any weapon at all.
Any weapon. A shotgun is a weapon. It comes under the heading of any weapon at all. So do you mean legitimately owned shotguns?
I mean any weapon down the street that you... In other words, there's places to go to use a...
Yeah, but you've got to get there, haven't you? You've got to actually get there. If I'm legitimately engaged in... Maybe I'm the best friend of Prince William, I think it's unlikely, and I'm going to shoot grouse... I suspect they shoot them with guns rather than catapults. So there I am, heading out up onto the moors above Lancashire that are owned by the Duke of Westminster, we all know. I'm going up there to shoot grouse, perfectly legal enterprise. Yeah. And I'm walking to the place where Prince William's picking me up in his car with the chauffeur. I'm walking there with my gun in a case, I've got a licence for it, and I'm stopped by the cops. I should go to prison for life, you say?
No, because your gun would be wrapped up.
OK.
Right.
So somebody carrying a wrapped-up gun... They'd be okay.
No,
they couldn't unwrap it. I mean, I might be on my way to a bank job.
Yeah, you could be.
I might be on my way to Newtonley Willers looking for you. But you've no way of knowing that. You see, it was this intent I was having trouble with. I've never liked camping. It was this intent. How do you prove intent?
Well, you can't, can you, really?
So we won't be locking anyone up then? So it's a crap piece of legislation? You would, yeah, but we're not without...
I would lock all them up.
Yes, I know, but you see, we don't generally... I mean, you know, maybe it'll be introduced at some point, I don't know, but generally judges don't say, I can't make my mind up, will you ring Sean in Newtonley Willers? They tend to work on the basis of what the law says, and you want the law to say we should lock them up if they're convicted with intent, but you appear to say we have no way of convicting them of intent, so it's a bit of balmy law.
The bloody law right through's barmy, isn't it, really?
Never mind, you've done your best. Perhaps it was originally written by you. 0161 228 2255. Sean in Newtonley Willers having a stab at it. Oh, that's perhaps not the phrase I was looking for. Anyway.
Host Watershed Wit and Wisdom with Sam Walker.
I'm injured. Kid in the nursery again today, so I thought, right, I'm going to paint that dining room. So I'm up a ladder, and I thought, well, I can't hold the paint pot because it's so massive, so I had like a little butter pot that I was putting paint in, so I only did about 3 strokes, so I had to keep running up and down the ladder. I was getting really quite puffed.
Sam Walker.
At one point, I had to decorate just in the tracky bones with the holes in the bottom and a bra, because I was so boiling, and I was thinking, webcam? This is another money-making scheme.
Sam Walker.
I don't want to create too much of an abysmal picture for you.
Tonight from 10 at BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. Labour leadership contenders, Miliband, Byers, Milburn, Purnell and Hutton, to name a few. Qualifications, all are, I suggest, graduates of the London School of Snake Oil Salesmanship. God help us all. That's Terry in Kersley. What could he possibly mean? It's 1:20 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines with Michelle Adamson.
A pregnant teenager died a day after being sent home from a Rochdale hospital with stomach pains. The Wedding List Present Service Rapid has gone into administration. The firm handles about 3,000 wedding lists a year with an average value of £2,000 to £3,000 per order. A rescue team looking for a missing walker from Rochdale have found a body in a mountain gully in Snowdonia. And Manchester's weather, brighter and drier this afternoon, highs of 20 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester. 2020 traffic.
The one lane still closed on the M60 clockwise at junction 23 for Ashton-under-Lyne because of an accident. It's the inside lane of the 3 that's closed just after the entry slipper there. It's because of a lorry that's actually shedding its tarpaulin, and it actually has become attached to the gantry. Now, traffic does seem to be coping well. Just been taking a look at the camera images across that stretch, and you shouldn't really meet it with any queues, what with it being the time of afternoon it is. Now, if you spot any other problems out and about, why not give us a call on 0161 244 4951. I'm Maria Jackson.
And the time of afternoon it is 1:20 if you're wondering.
With more updates than the other guys.
2020 traffic.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Ye gods, we've all been there, haven't we? Jimmy in Hazel Grove. Hiya, Jimmy.
Hi, Alan, you all right, mate?
Not bad at all.
Good win for you on Saturday, mate.
Wasn't it spectacular? Leeds.
Played well, yeah. Played very well.
We did.
Yeah. Anyway, quick one. All it is, my daughter started ice skating, and she's after a pair of boots, and I was just wondering, did anybody in Manchester know where I could get ice skates from, boots, in the shop where I can just literally walk in? You know, obviously you can go to these ice arenas, but they're asking mega money for them, like nearly £100 for a pair of boots.
Yeah, I think they cost mega money.
£800.
Yeah, Laura Dosh. I don't know.
But you see them on this eBay, and I don't have a card or whatever you need to buy things off. But you can get them for like £40 on them. You know, it's like half price.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering if any of your customers know where there was a shop where I could walk in with my daughter and say, try a pair of these on.
Right. Well, apart from the ice rink, obviously.
Yeah.
But you don't want to go there?
Well, it's just a lot more money. Double the money.
Yeah. Well, double the money of where? Given that you can't find anywhere. So when you say they're double the money of where?
On like eBay.
Oh, I see.
They sell them where they sell like buy now and the £40. But I don't.
Hello? Oh dear. Oh, you're back, are you? Right. We lost you for a moment then.
Did you?
We did, yes. You went all crackly and gonski.
Oh, I have that problem sometimes.
Yeah, and so does your phone.
I know, yeah. So it's just, I just wondered if anybody knew where...
All right, well, I don't, obviously, but have you tried... it might sound daft. Have you tried the sports shop?
I have. I've tried JJBs and things like that, and they all said, no, we don't do them.
No, well, the JJB's a clothes shop, really, isn't it? It doesn't do sports.
Yeah, but they do sports, they do...
Yeah.
You know,
well, they do clothes, they do... clothes, that's it really, and the odd football, and maybe a stud or two, but yeah.
The odd rugby thing, yeah.
Right, well, OK, well, we're a broad church. If anybody knows of any shops where you can go to buy ice boots, ice skating boots, shoes, stroke, whatever, but not the ice rink, because they're very expensive.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, Alan.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, mate.
It's
Cheers,
my pleasure. As I say, we're a broad church. I have no idea, but I suppose, look, our endeavour is to help. Peter in Reddish. Hiya, Peter.
Oh, good afternoon, Alan.
Good afternoon, sir.
It's regarding this knife culture.
Yes.
Now, a little story here. I was clearing the garage. I'm a retired butcher, by the way. And when I folded the business up 10 years ago, I had all these knives. And I wrapped them
would
all
have one or two, yes.
Yeah, and put them out of the way in the garage. So cleaning out the other day, I thought, right, we better get rid of these. So I phoned a local cop shop to see what was happening, regarding getting rid.
Yeah.
You never believe what they told me. They said, take them to your local tip and throw them into the waste metal.
Yeah, that's the place, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, throw them in, all those knives in there.
Yeah.
It just begged belief. I just thought, well, it was a bit odd. A funny remark to make,
Yeah, what were you expecting?
Well, I just thought they may have had... you'll have seen on television when they had all these knives, in these big wheelie bins in these cop shops. They poured them all out, whether they've gone round collecting them, I just don't know, I just thought it was an odd, an odd statement to make. Just take them to the tip and throw them over the top. I mean,
put them in the metal recycling.
Yeah, but with the tip I go to, you just throw them over this really big wall, and so anyone could have got hold of them. And these are wacky big steak knives and very sharp too, believe me,
Are they still sharp after all this time?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Crikey.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they're still pointed.
So somebody came good quality ones.
Yeah, somebody came up with the.
I just
thing
wonder what you thought about.
Well, I think it sounds quite balmy.
Maybe not.
But you may be able to help me, because some time ago on the programme, we had a bloke come on.
Hello?
And he said, why do we sell knives with a point when the point's not needed? Now, you were a butcher, so you would need a sharp blade on your knife, but there wouldn't be many knives that you'd need a point on, would there? Maybe the boning knife, but apart from that, you wouldn't, would you? Oh, we've lost him. Oh, dear. Oh, well, I get the chance to ask somebody he might know something about, and he's gone. We've lost. I don't know what happened there, but never mind. Thank you, Peter. Laurie in Stockport. Hi, Laurie. Or Laurie. I don't know which.
It's Laurie here.
How do, Laurie?
Good afternoon.
And you, sir?
The cricket question you were asking earlier, my memory is probably as bad as yours, but in the early 70s, I was living out in Australia, and I happened to see the test matches there, which were very exciting. Now, Colin Cowdrey came out as a replacement for one of the English batsmen who were injured. And at this stage, he was almost at retirement age.
Yeah.
And he got battered black and blue by Lillian Thompson.
Oh.
Now, I just wondered if that was what you were thinking about.
Is the word conflagrated? Have I conflagrated the two stories into one?
I think you may have.
It could have happened, couldn't it? Yeah. Could have happened.
Because when the headlines in the papers were that Dad's Army was coming out because he was pretty much retired, and he did get hit quite a lot, but he didn't show it.
No, well, the times have changed, haven't they? Well, it might be that I've done the two, sort of mungled them up together. But the thing about Close was he was actually brought in specifically to show. It now turns out the West Indies, to show the West Indies that you don't scare us, pal. Now, the truth is they did scare us. Every other one of them was yeller as the sun, but he wasn't. And what did you think of Michael Vaughan striking?
It wasn't in keeping with his role as England captain. I think you need to show a bit more fortitude than that. But on the other side, I mean, when he did break up, he was talking about his family and the support he gets, and I suppose you do get a bit emotional.
It's no reason for crying.
Family. Well, he held himself together fairly well. You should have seen me on his daughter's wedding.
He was crying. Well, your daughter's wedding, you could just about get away with it, but frankly, even that's stretching it a bit.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to the stiff upper lip?
Yeah, perhaps so. Yeah, perhaps so. But I hope I haven't confused the matter even.
No, you're not. You've helped me understand why my brain was doing what it was doing, which is frequently and on this occasion absolutely bugger all of any use. So thank you for that explanation. Thank you for coming to my aid in my hour of need. Look, I'm going to start crying in a minute. You better go.
All right, then.
Cheers, Laurie.
Right,
thank you very much. 0161 228 2255. John in Cheadle says you could work out what the lowest measurement of alcohol is for the smallest and weakest measure available in a pub. Anything above that would be illegal and subject to prosecution unless you could prove a different course. Any proprietary product that could put you above this limit would be labelled appropriately. Any smaller amount of alcohol in the blood probably wouldn't affect your physiology. A fail on a breathalyzer would be set not at 0, but so low as to be virtual zero tolerance. Well, OK, we're getting further. I mean, what you're arguing there, and it's a perfectly sensible argument, what you're arguing there is that we should reduce the current limit, or reduce the limit from its current position. So whatever it is at the moment, reduce it quite swingingly. What do you say? 0161 228 2255. I can't believe it. I can't believe that somebody has actually replied about the ice skates. Alan in Glossop says, regarding ice skates, tell your caller to try Decathlon. 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 Presumably they're sports shops, and there's one in Stockport. So there you are. So, Jimmy, regarding ice skates, give Decathlon a ring in Stockport. And don't be saying, but it's a long way, Stockport. Exactly. And, well, there's never anywhere to park, because there is, you just can't find your way out. And Ace says, Beswick, you could start a route in an empty house. No, I couldn't. I wouldn't be in it. How can I start a route in an empty house? I'm not there. Oh, well, it's empty. So how can I? Once a month, on average, somewhere in the world, according to Neil in Bebington, once a month, on average, somewhere in the world, there is what is known as a blade out event. Can I just say here and now, this is nothing to do whatsoever with knives. It's about planes. Here we go. On average, once a month, somewhere in the world, there is a blade out event. In aviation, planes, in aviation, this is when one of the fan compressor blades breaks off, usually when the jet is at high revs during takeoff or landing. As a result of the force in the blade, the engine is totally destroyed, but contained within the outer engine casing. Apparently, in such an event, the plane is quickly and safely recovered on the remaining engine or engines. In other words, that firm that got fined $5,000 for flying a plane with a dicky ticker, or whatever, they're not as evil as we might first think, because a plane can fly on with just one engine. Well, Neil, just recently, and by that I mean earlier this year, a plane was on its way from Manchester to somewhere a very long way away, I think Australia. And whilst it was flying along, one of its engines decided it didn't want to play anymore. So, I've had enough of this. I resign. And it stopped, and that was the end of it. And the plane landed in somewhere like Cyprus or Greece or Turkey or some other such place. And I asked at the time, why did it bother landing, given that a modern jet can fly the whole of its journey, including takeoff and landing, on just one engine? They're designed that way. And everybody come on that knows stuff and said the answer to that is that they do that to provide the cover, because if they didn't do that and the other engine went out, then there you are. All right? End of story. So that's why they did it. But you're right in the assertion that a modern passenger aircraft can fly on just one of its number of engines, however many they are. So there. But it's not the ideal situation. You wouldn't design it that way, otherwise it'd be different. Alan, have the police got this poster idea off the good old-fashioned shopkeeper? I remember going to a shop when I was a lad, and in the window a sign said, Mrs. Smith owes this shop 30 bob. Excellent. He's talking about the sign that's in, I think it's in Hume, where the police say, look at us, we've caught some criminals. Yeah. Like Walls putting a thing up saying, look at us, we've sold some ice cream. Or the railway saying, look at us, we've taken a big long thing on some lines to London. Not much of an achievement, really. That's the job. Just mentioned it. Barry in Middleton. Hiya, Barry.
How are you, Alan?
What can we do for you?
Well, it's a bit late in the day to bring up a new subject, but I'd like to. Incidentally, before I do, I agree with you entirely for a change. It was Brian Close. It was battered black and blue.
Yeah, but who by?
It was the West Indies.
Ah,
It was
well,
Wes Hall and Charlie Griffiths.
Yeah, well, that's it, you see.
He thought, a Yorkshireman, he thought they were after his wallet.
Well, you're not agreeing with me, you see.
Oh,
you
did
disagree.
you not?
I said it was... I got the Brian Close right. Unfortunately, I said it was Lily and Thompson.
Oh, it was Wes Hall and Charlie Griffiths.
All right.
I was a young man and in my prime.
Well, all right, well, I still am.
Right, what I'm phoning about is there's a lot of publicity this morning in the newspapers about decent law-abiding citizens being fined £110 if they don't shut the bin properly.
If they overfill it, yeah. So
if they overfill it, because most of it, I'm not making excuses, it should be closed, but it seems a bit draconian. Because nearly daily, I travel through Monsell on my way into Manchester. And for the last 3 weeks, well, you had a discussion 6 weeks ago about the merits and demerits of the travelling community, which I didn't join in, but I listened to avidly. And I travel, there's an encampment been set up illegally on public land. There was big rocks, they rolled to one side and moved on, and they've eventually been moved on. And there was 40, 50 caravans, all with Sky Television aerials. And they've moved on this last week. But the amount of rubbish, Alan, I would equate it with about 500 wheelie bins full at least, just dumped. And they've moved on with impunity. There's no £110 fine or anything for them, which I think is very, very unfair.
Well, it is unfair, but the £110 fine, and the world is balmy, but the £110 fine is for overfilling your wheelie bin.
Mm.
And if you overfill your wheelie bin, you'll get fined.
But would it be all right to dump it outside your house?
No, in simple terms, no.
Well, it is for some members of the community or non-members of the community. That's the point I'm making.
Well, I take your point, and I understand your point. My difficulty isn't in finding agreement with you. It's finding a way of dealing with the issue. What would you have done?
I don't know. I don't know the answer, but surely after all this time, it's not a new... It hasn't suddenly reared its ugly head.
No,
surely
it hasn't.
It's an issue that should have been addressed and should have been...
Well, it was addressed. It was addressed back in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
When the then government... Now, this law has since been repealed or changed out of existence. But the then government said that virtually every local authority had to provide a site for travellers.
I'll go along with that, yeah.
They had to provide, it was a legal requirement, that they provide a site for travellers, that they have the right to use. The site would have proper rubbish collection facilities and the like. Unfortunately, the councils decided they'd rather break the law than obey it, and many, many councils didn't bother. And because so many of them didn't bother, the law was eventually got rid of, because there's no point having a law that no one obeys.
Yeah.
And you're then left, imagine you're a traveller. What do you do? What do you do? How do you... It's a way of life that, frankly, I couldn't be doing with.
I'm very pleased to say, Alan, you've just said, imagine I'm a traveller. In my wildest dreams, I couldn't imagine being a traveller.
OK, well, imagine...
My wildest.
OK, well, just imagine the other way round, then. Imagine if you were a traveller, how difficult it would be for you to countenance an entirely new way of life, i.e., living in a brick-built house and never moving.
Yeah,
because that would be as horrendous for that person as travelling would be for you, and incidentally, me. I can't imagine many
Well, I'll
things
try and
worse.
imagine that, but my first thought would be, if I did adopt that way of life, I honestly think I would be concerned with obeying the law of the land.
What if it wasn't possible? What if it wasn't possible?
I don't know. I can't say to you, lock them up, burn them and flog them. I can't say that.
I'm not inviting you to say it. I'm inviting you to
Give you a solution.
I'm inviting you to consider the position of the traveller. Now, I don't like what they get up to. I don't like it when they go on to land that isn't theirs. They park up there, they make a mess, and they move on. But unlike many who say they shouldn't do that, I wonder, given they're chosen, and not all of them choose it, sometimes it's in their system, it's how they've always lived, it's the culture to which they belong.
Yep.
How do they manage to live the life that they legitimately desire to live within our society? How do we do that when there are very few facilities provided for them? There isn't a proper local authority provided site. There is nowhere for them to go. What are they going to do?
Well, are you condoning the law?
I'm not condoning the law being broken, but neither am I condoning the existence of laws that gets people to have to consider changing their perfectly otherwise legitimate lifestyle.
Yeah, but Alan, they have no... I don't know how I can put this without sounding...
Well, sound it then, don't we?
Right. They have no right to a place in society if they do not contribute to that society.
Well, you don't know that they don't contribute.
I don't know that, but it's a good idea.
Barry, your policy of they have no right because they don't contribute involves gassing pensioners.
No, it doesn't.
Well, they don't contribute now.
Alan, you're talking to one.
Well, what's your contribution other than bothering me for 5 minutes?
I've contributed to the...
Oh, that past tense now. Oh, you have contributed. Well, how do you know that those people have not?
I don't know it for a fact, but I'm willing to bet you.
But we can't frame policy on Barry's guess.
No, we can't. I agree with that, yeah.
They're entitled to live a different life to you and me. The least we can do is accommodate.
At our expense.
Well,
but I can't leave my dustbin open, see things.
No, you can't.
Get me backside kicked.
And when you say at our expense, you presumably would put all the caravan factories out of work. It's 18 minutes to 2 o'clock on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines. Faye Rusco.
Greater Manchester Police could be asked to re-examine the evidence in the Jill Dando case after Barry George was cleared of her murder. An airline which used a faulty jet to fly passengers 3,000 miles from Liverpool to New York has been fined £5,000. And a 17-year-old girl from Bury has come up with a rather unusual way of enjoying her school summer holidays. Heather Sellers has set herself the challenge of swimming the channel. Manchester's weather brighter and drier this afternoon, highs of 20 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Well, I'm afraid one lane's still closed off on the M60 clockwise, just after junction 23 for Ashton Under Line. It's after an accident and recovery work that's still underway. The matrix signs have been set to 50 miles per hour, though traffic does seem to be coping well. Other than that, we're doing absolutely fine out and about. No other accidents or incidents, and no major slow spots to contend with either. Don't forget, Deansgate is still closed between Key Street and Bootle Street, while ongoing gas main work and water main work takes place. There is a diversion sign for you, so those routes might be busier than they usually are. Warrington Road in Wigan as well, the A49 still has one lane closed off for gas main work at its junction with Highfield Grange Avenue. If you want to update us, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Maria Jackson.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Joanne Smith.
Good afternoon. Kevin Peterson has been named England's new Test and One-Day cricket captain.
It's a great honour, it's a great privilege, and it's something which has turned my life around again in the last 24 hours. I woke up at about 11 o'clock yesterday morning and I turned on the TV and I just saw there was a big announcement at 1 o'clock. So I was straight on the blower to Mike. He gave me his views on stuff, and then half an hour later I saw that I was a front runner.
Well, he replaces Michael Vaughan, who resigned as Test skipper yesterday, while Paul Collingwood left his post leading the one-day side. There's been plenty of opinions on this, as expected. We've heard from Alex Stewart and Mike Gatting. Now here's another former England captain, Graham Gooch. He believes the batsman is the logical choice.
On balance, when you weigh up the other candidates, Rob Key maybe from outside, Alistair Cook and Andrew Strauss within the team, I think Peterson is the best choice. He's certainly the best player in the side. That's no reason to be captain. But you also need to want to be captain as well. England needs someone who they can respect, someone that can take them forward over a period of time. There is precedence for the best player being the captain of the side. Alan Border did it for Australia, Viv Richards, way back. They were both successful, so why not?
Well, aside from a new England captain being announced, the squad for Thursday's fourth test against South Africa has been named. Ravi Bopara has replaced Vaughan, with Lancashire's Andrew Flintoff keeping his place in the side. The all-rounder has also been named in the squad for the one-day series against South Africa, replacing Dimitri Mascarenhas. Sussex wicketkeeper batsman Matt Pryor has earned a recall as a replacement for Tim Ambrose, while uncapped Nottinghamshire all-rounder Samit Patel is included. Former Manchester United striker Ruud van Nistelrooy believes Real Madrid will fail in their attempts to sign Cristiano Ronaldo, despite claims that the Reds winger will demand a move when he returns to Manchester tomorrow. Van Nistelrooy says it's gone too far and it's very distracting. Meanwhile, United continue their pre-season preparations this evening with a friendly game at Sir Alex Ferguson's son Darren's Peterborough. Elsewhere, Bolton are at Aris Salonika in Greece. Wanderers, of course, met them in last season's UEFA Cup. Manchester City's latest signing, Tal Ben-Aim, made his debut for the Blues on Saturday in the 2-2 draw with Stockport at Edgeley Park. Former Bolton and Chelsea defender, who cost £5 million, says the club's fans deserve success.
Yeah, I think it's a good club with great expectation. You know, they want to go forward. Fantastic fans that deserve definitely more than what they got in the last 20 years. They need some to see some more winnings and more attacking football, more aggressive, more passion to the game.
Oldham's Boundary Park ground will look a bit different this season, with one stand having been knocked down and not replaced. Boss John Sheridan is hoping it can work to their advantage.
Everyone knows the stand's been knocked down, so it's there, so you just get on with it now. Hopefully it might benefit us more than the opposition, so I don't look at the stand when I'm playing football anyway. I concentrate what I'm doing with the ball.
So there's just 4 days to go until the start of the new football season. Join Jimmy Wagg from 1 on Manchester Sports for coverage of all our local sides on the opening day. Paula Radcliffe says she intends to run in the marathon at the Beijing Olympics. The world record holder is recovering from a stress fracture in her left thigh and admits she's not running at her fastest. Andy Murray has officially placed himself among the elite of world tennis after winning the Cincinnati Masters yesterday. His straight sets victory over Novak Djokovic means he's now 6th in the world rankings. A motorcyclist has died in hospital following a crash in the British leg of the World Supersport Championship at Brands Hatch yesterday. Honda rider Craig Jones suffered a serious head injury in the 9th round on Sunday. And finally, in Speedway, Bellevue Aces host Ipswich. That's in the Elite League tonight.
From the four corners of the earth they came to compete in the ultimate event. And for the victors, the prize was to be a medal of the purest gold.
The 2008 Olympics on the BBC starts Friday afternoon from 12:45 with the opening ceremony.
I'd just like to, on behalf of the BBC, let you know that if you are a contestant in the Olympic Games and you do win, the medal you get will not be of the purest gold. There was some gold on it, on the outside, but they're not pure gold. I've had one in my hands. I didn't win it. It belonged to Matthew Pinson. and he had loads. They're quite heavy, but they're not pure gold. Just for the record. Well, we don't want to get fined again. I mean, 400,000 quid, it's a lot, you know. It's a lot. Some of that's had to come out of an executive's pension. Well, just the one, obviously, but an executive's pension. We can't have that, so we don't want to get fined again, so they're not pure gold. Right. Lawrence from Wigan says via text, what's wrong with the current drink-drive limit? The country's full of people trying to fix things that aren't broken. And Steve says, how many people drive to work in the morning after a night out? Potentially, these people could be over the 0 alcohol limit. I think this limit would be unfair. Colin in Bolton reminds us that Brian Johnson once inadvertently commentated the batsman's holding the bowler's willy. We all remember that, and I'm not sure it was that inadvertent, by the way, but never mind. Quite. And Steve in Warrington, that guy who wants the ice boots, he could get them off eBay, because he said, oh, I haven't got a card, so I can't pay on eBay. Well, apparently you can, according to Steve in Warrington. This message is for Jimmy the Ice Skate King. A lot of sellers accept payment by bank transfer. In other words, you go and pay the money directly into their bank account. So they give you the bank details, you know, the 6-figure number, the 3 pairs of numbers, the sort code, and then the bank account, and you go and put the money into their account. So you could pay. You could also pay, if I'm correct, I might not be, you could also pay by going and getting a gyro. Buying a gyro from the post. Do they still do? No, I don't think they do they? Postal orders, that'd do it. Anyway, there you are, that's a way forward. Brian in Little Lever. Hiya, Brian.
Hello, Alan. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Car road tax.
Yes.
A nice subject, I know. I've got a 7-year-old Fiesta, and my road tax went up this year, £270. Now, I've just had it MOT'd this morning, and you know the road tax goes on emissions, carbon emissions, they call them. Well, I'm looking at this form that comes out of the machine, because it's a bloke I know who's doing the MOT, just passed, but it's 0% on emissions on mine. I said to him, well, how come I'm paying 170 quid? He said, well, I don't know. And I wondered if anybody had this similar thing, because sometimes they put lists in the paper of road tax, and there's one, I don't know what make it is, I couldn't say it anyway, and it's 0. It's nothing. Now, if that car's on the road, using the road, surely it should be paying at least a nominal fee, say 50 quid. I'm paying 170 quid for a 7-year-old car with 0 emissions, and yet they're supposed to be taxing me on emissions, and I don't know how I can get any information at all. I don't suppose I could bring DVLA about it, because I haven't got a number.
Well, there is. Do you have a computer and the internet and all that rubbish?
No, I'm a poor old 75-year-old.
Well, the internet's free in most cases, so don't worry about that. Well, that would hold you back.
Yeah, it would.
I may be wrong in this, and I'll be corrected fairly sharpish. I don't think the charge related to emissions is per vehicle. I think the charge related to emissions is per type of vehicle.
Yeah, I understand that.
So there is a presumptive, if you like. Now, when a brand new vehicle is made, they have their emissions level, and providing you're within that and you pass the MOT and all the emissions testing that say it is the equivalent one for that vehicle, I think that's how it works out. I'm just on the DirectGov website at the moment. Calculate the cost of the vehicle tax for your vehicle using the tables below. The tables contain the rate of vehicle tax for different tax classes, together with tax class codes to distinguish them. Bloody hell.
Yeah, gobbledygook.
Yeah, well, it was in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Cars registered before the 1st of March 2001. Is that you?
I think it's just after.
Just after, so, OK.
I haven't got my documents are in my file.
All right, well, if it's before 2001, it appears to be based just on the cubic capacity, the cc, based on engine size.
Well, this is a 1300cc, this one.
Yeah, but is it...
Dura engine, you probably don't
No. But the age is what counts.
Yeah.
Because cars registered on or after the 1st of March 2001, it's based on fuel type and CO2 emissions. So, Band A, if your emissions are CO2 emissions, this is grams per kilo, something or other, up to 100, there is no tax to pay. All right?
Yeah.
So there you are. But I don't think that means that... Let's have a look. The details are shown on the registration certificate. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I think the details have to be shown on the registration certificate. So, there's your vehicle registered. It has the norm for your vehicle, and it's based upon the norm. It's not based upon what you achieve with your vehicle if you reduce it. I think it's based upon the norm. I could be wrong.
Sort of an average.
Yeah, if you like, an average.
Yeah.
So, but if when you go for your MOT test, you're above the emissions rate, then you fail the test.
Obviously, yeah.
So if you're below it...
Well, this is zero on mine.
Well...
Zero emissions.
Yeah, I can't imagine it, is it? What are you running it on?
Well, just petrol, yeah. Normal, expensive petrol, yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go. I couldn't imagine zero emissions. Something's got to come out the back, hasn't it?
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, that's on the machine, you see, and it's all perfectly above board. You can't mess with these machines. Well, I don't think so. Anyway.
It wouldn't be in his interest to mess with them.
With it, but I put my boot through it.
As you would have done if it had come up as 200 and failed. I don't have an answer to your question, but certainly if
I just wondered if anybody listening in had this same thing, because I see these advertised for sale, and it says low tax. I don't know what they call low tax. I mean, second hand, obviously, you know. And one exactly like mine in the Bolton News. I don't know what engine it had in. It could have had a different engine, I suppose. Same year, same model. Low tax. Well, I don't call 170 low tax.
Well, it depends what it would have been without.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't it, really? It depends what it would have been. Now, I'm just looking at the list here, and, I mean, I know they're talking about changing the process, but at the moment, the current one is there on the website for all to see, and it's dealing with, as I say, vehicles after the 1st of March, if your CO2 emission... And again, I say, I don't think it's about the specific vehicle, like your car. I think it's about the type of vehicle, and the way they regulate that is when your vehicle goes for its MOT test, your vehicle has to meet certain criteria about emissions, a maximum, and if it's above that, you fail. So you can't use it on it.
Being below then?
Well, if it's below, then you're within the permitted limit for that vehicle. And if it's zero, then you're definitely below. Okay?
Okay, thanks anyway.
All right, then. Have a good one. Ta-ra now.
Thank you.
01612282255, and here we have another one. Type of fuel, petrol. Select transmission, manual. How are we doing here? What else do we have to do? The tip of the day. Petrol, manual. Select manufacturer. I'm just checking me on. Ford. Right. What else? Select model. Fiesta. 2008 model year afterwards. What else have I got to do? Euro standard. Oh, I don't know what that means. I'll put IV. I've no idea what that means. Vehicle excise duty calculator. Please select specification. Bloody hell, what does all that mean? Oh, well, we'll have that one then. I think I'm one of them. Right. No more. Show my 12 months. Select a tax period. 12 months. Show my VED band. 120 quid. There you are. You work it out. So it's by specific vehicle and the emissions related to that type of vehicle. And the way they measure it, you can actually go on the website and calculate if it was a new car, that is what it would be. That was very exciting. I really enjoyed doing that. It's been a quiet day. And BH, not the tobacco, obviously, BH says, I think the word you were wanting when you said conflagrated was conflated. That was it. I knew it was something like that. Thank you very much for that. I did say I might have the wrong word here. Conflagrated is, of course, an extensive and destructive fire. Well, I've always been a bit of hot stuff, as you know. Conflated is when you combine into 1. And it doesn't necessarily be 2 into 1 if you do more than 2. Jonathan in Chester says that cars before 2001 didn't have CO2 figures, which is why it will show as 0. Oh, you see, so if you took your car along, that explains everything. He might have a pre-2001. 0 emissions, he must have the tester plugged in the wrong hole. Used to be able to get locked up for that. Anyway, that's me done. I shall be back tomorrow. That nice Mrs. Want is next. I, for one, can't wait. And, frankly, won't have to. You can join us again tomorrow. Do have fun. I'm off to the dentist now, so I won't be having any. Ta-ra now.
Summer's over. Football is back on BBC Radio Manchester.